Hello, welcome to the Dissident Daughters podcast. We are finally here with the long-awaited interview of my other daughter.
Favorite daughter is what I think you meant.
Oh, favorite daughter. That might have been what I meant, yes. And she is deciding to go by Korihor for today because she, has a lot of similarities to Korihor.
And because I put the whore in Korihor. I think it's perfect because we're talking about purity culture and
yes,
right?
Yeah, that's what we're going to talk about today. Yes, and she's the Antichrist, so it's fine. No, but so it's taken us a bit to be able to get her on here because she has a busy life and she doesn't live here. So we are finally ready to interview her, and I'm just going to have her kind of introduce herself a little bit, tell us a little bit about herself growing up and her experiences in the church, and then we'll kind of talk about some of the main, I guess, themes of your Mormon story. So, go ahead.
I feel like I had really similar to both my brother and sister in growing up in the church, very similar experiences. It was a lot of like, it just is. It just is. Like I was told it was, so it is.
Yeah.
Not very much of like, oh, I know it's true.
Yeah.
I think like the most spiritual experiences I ever had was like at girls' camp, maybe, And I know a lot of people talk about when you're just so emotionally and physically exhausted, everything feels like a spiritual experience.
Yes.
Because I do feel like a lot of girls' camp is exhausting. Like, it really is. So I think that...
Yeah, I think that they've kind of dialed in that whole system of, having you, have to deal with hard things, maybe a little homesickness, maybe some drama among the girls. Like, they give you some challenges that you have to, face head on.
When I first heard about that, do you know what it's called?
What?
When you feel
elevation emotion.
Elevation emotion, that's what it's called. So, when I first heard about it, I was like, that makes a lot of sense. That makes so much sense, and that's what I thought of immediately was girls' camp. So I feel like now realizing that that's probably just
what you
elevation emotion, it makes a lot more sense.
Yeah,
because it's like that was really the only time that I really felt like the spirit.
What you thought was the spirit at the time, which when you think you're feeling the spirit, you think that's testifying that the church is true, but really you're just feeling emotion because they typically will tell a sad story or a happy story, something that just evokes emotion in you.
Yeah.
And but as far as your growing up years, just kind of the average regular stuff in a Mormon household, you were always a really good kid.
I was baptized.
You never got in trouble.
Days, all the things.
Yeah. Baptism, activity days, all the regular steps. We were very active your entire life. You talked about how you were telling me earlier about how your older brother's experiences kind of affected you in some ways. Tell me about that.
Well, I mean, I watched you guys fight every single Sunday about going to church. It was an argument every single time. Yeah. And I was just like, that's so annoying.
Yeah.
It's so much work.
It was so annoying.
It's so much work, and I feel like it's not worth it. I was always just like, whatever, it's 3 hours that you get to stay home in bed. It's really not that big of a deal. Just suck it up, Yeah. So that's kind of what I did. Because I was never super in love with the church. I also wasn't I didn't hate it enough to fight you on it,
Yeah.
So I just kind of went and was like, well, when I get older, when I move out, whatever, I can leave the church, right? Because I remember...
That was kind of your plan?
That was just kind of the plan, was just just suck it up until you get through this, it's only a couple more years, whatever, right?
Yeah.
Because again, I remember my brother's girlfriend, she had a lot of issues with going to church and her parents making her go to church. And I think it was you who said, she should just suck it up, just go, until she can get out of the house, just make her parents happy, and she'll be fine. And I was like, huh, what a brilliant idea. It's like, I've been doing that this whole time.
So I gave you the idea.
No, I think that was after I kind of like thought that. Like, I think it was well after my brother left the church, and so.
So you went through all the motions. Do you remember anything about your baptism day? It was like
pretty
just a regular
average,
yeah, just a regular day.
Yeah.
Okay.
I remember, like.
I mean, you're so young when you get baptized. I can't remember. I think I said this earlier on another episode of the podcast, but my only memory of my baptism day is at nighttime getting ready to go to bed. I shared a room with my sister, and I said to her, I was kind of puzzled about the fact that like I wasn't feeling any different because I thought that I would feel totally different. Yeah. And I said to my sister, I don't feel any different now that I'm baptized. And her response was, "You're definitely going to hell."
You've never told me that before. That's so funny.
I might have said that on an earlier episode of the podcast, but she's like, "You're definitely going to hell." Like, and that stuck with me.
Was she joking or was she serious?
She was dead serious. And she didn't understand any better than I did, but her thought was that I, wasn't feeling the Spirit.
Does that mean she felt completely different after?
I don't know.
Or was she also like, I'm going to hell too?
Yeah, I have no idea. I've never asked her about it, but that stuck with me. I was like, whoa, okay, so because I didn't feel anything different. I didn't feel the Spirit, or I didn't feel the gift of the Holy Ghost, something was wrong with me.
Oh my gosh,
yeah,
that's
crazy,
horrible.
Huh? I know. So, but for the most part, I think it's normal to not have very many memories of it, and also I think maybe to have feelings of like, that was a little anticlimactic. In fact, that's exactly what I was feeling. It was just like, wow, I mean, I thought it was going to be a bigger deal, and it was kind of meh.
Yeah.
So, anyways, all those things were kind of regular experiences of a Mormon kid growing up. We live in a very conservative community. All your friends were Mormon.
Yep.
Did you ever have friends that were not Mormon that you felt weird about in any way? I can't remember if you...
I remember, there was this kid who moved to our school in, like, first grade. So, like, real young. And I remember finding out that he wasn't Mormon and being like, what? Like you're
really
not?
confused?
Like, you don't go to church? He was like, no, I don't go to church. I was like, huh? Like, I didn't realize that was even a thing.
Yeah, you're like,
that just
that's
seems
weird.
So weird because everyone was Mormon.
Yeah.
Everyone went to church on Sunday. Like, yeah.
So, it was rare to meet somebody that didn't or that wasn't Mormon.
Yeah.
So, talk about, like, you started activity days, like the regular activity days around whatever age, 8, 10.
8, I think.
And you had a specific experience in activity days that...
Yeah, because I know we've talked about this before. Yeah. It was this lesson. They took a Snickers bar, and they're like, who wants this Snickers bar? And obviously everyone's like, oh, I want it, right? And she's like, this Snickers bar is like you guys, and when you start to slowly like shed the layers, I guess, I don't know. She started taking off the wrapper, right? If you start taking off the wrapper, right? She was like, oh man, this Snicker bar looks really, really good. Like, I just can't help it. I gotta take a bite. She licks it first. That's what it was. Oh. She licks it first, and she goes, does anybody want this? And again, nobody was like, I want the licked Snickers bar. That's gross, right? And she goes, oh, well, I've already unwrapped it a little bit. I might as well do it a little more. And she unwraps it more, and then she, like, takes a big bite out of it. And she's like, does anybody want this now? Like, I've licked it. I've bitten out of it. Like, anybody want this? And everyone was like, no, gross. And she was kind of like, this is why we have to be
you were
modest.
Secretly thinking, I would still take it. It's fine.
Right. Probably. At 8 years old.
Right. Nobody would admit that,
right.
Anyway, sorry. Keep going.
I'm sure somebody made a joke about that.
Yeah, I'll still take it.
Yeah.
But that's not what she wanted you to say.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway, she was just kind of saying, like, that's why we need to be modest, is so that, we can keep our purity, right? Mm-hmm. And it was very much teaching us, like, I don't think it was intended to really teach us this, but it definitely gave off the message of, like, you are responsible to make sure other people don't take your purity, don't take that from
100%.
You, like...
And once somebody takes a bite or licks
you're useless.
Like, nobody wants you anymore.
Yeah. I remember I've heard of people saying that they've done that lesson with, like, roses, you know?
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, look at this really gorgeous rose, but then they pass it around the room and let everybody smell it and tell them all to touch the petals and, like, feel it. And by the end, it's
like
wilted and falling apart, and it's, you know.
Or like the chewed up gum lesson.
Or the chewed up gum, you know, there's...
Licked cupcake.
Yep.
Heard that one too. Yeah, so that was, you know, what? You were between 8 and 10-ish, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
And you still remember that.
Yeah. I think that's one of the only things I remember from activity days.
That's
honestly.
just so painful. And you think, like, you know, those leaders, they probably had good intentions, or they thought that that was, like, a good lesson to teach, to, like, make sure that you're paying attention to what you're wearing and the messages you're giving and stuff. And they just did not, that was just so unhealthy of a way to see things, you know?
Yeah.
So I guess my thought about that is that they just start from a very young age teaching girls that they are responsible for everyone else's thoughts about them, right?
Yeah.
And that their body is not really theirs. Like, their job is to cover it up and keep it pure so that one day they can give it to their husband.
Yeah.
Like, that's such a terrible message.
Mm-hmm. It really is.
And I think that the story, the object lessons are very shaming. And you think about kids who, we know, young girls that have been sexually abused or assaulted or molested or whatever. And how do you think they feel after hearing those lessons?
It's their fault. There's so much victim blaming that it's you know, because they didn't cover up, they didn't, you know.
That somebody had bad thoughts. And then also that once that's happened to you, now nobody's going to want you.
There's no going back, you know. Once it's done, it's done.
Yeah.
You can't fix it. Like,
right.
I feel like not even repenting is enough. Like,
Yeah. Well, and you get mixed messages, right? Because there's the one message that the Savior's atonement covers everything.
Yeah.
But then there's the other message that, like, your virginity and your purity is worth everything. And you can never get it back if you lose it. And, like, I remember a message from, and I can't remember who right off the bat, but there was a message, a talk given by a general authority that basically said that if somebody is trying to assault you or attack you and rape you, that you should fight to the death, because it would be better to die than to lose your virtue.
I remember hearing that. Yeah.
It's better to die than to lose your virtue. So what do you think that does to girls who experience some kind of sexual trauma?
It's, because I've got a friend who, both her and her boyfriend were very, very Mormon. And
they waited until 16 to date.
They waited until 16 to date. They really did. And I just know that, like, he ended up making her have sex with him, you know, which I know she didn't want to do. I remember her telling me, like, it was so painful. It was not fun. Like, and it just, like, breaks my heart, because I know that she feels so guilty about it now. She probably feels like she can't ever fix it, you know? And I don't think he's Mormon anymore.
Oh, really?
He never served a mission, I know.
Yeah. So when she had basically non-consensual forced sex with her boyfriend, she felt responsible.
Yeah. She thinks that it's her fault, and it's not.
Yeah. And
not
she felt shame and didn't feel like she could tell people. Like, she didn't even tell you for a long time.
She didn't tell me until after they broke up.
Oof.
Yeah. I was like, wow. And he was just a piece of shit anyway. Like,
yeah.
I mean, he cheated on her. He was a piece of shit.
Yeah.
And then he did that on top of it. And she still felt like she had to be good to him. I know he was constantly, like, saying how he wanted her to, you know, raise his kids, and they wanted to get married. He wanted to marry her, which is crazy. But he
wanted her to raise his kids. Is that the way he said it?
Yes. Listen, he was so certain that she wouldn't have a career and that she would just be a stay-at-home mom. And she wants to be like all this crazy stuff. And
she's super smart. She wants to have a career.
She wants to have a career. She's probably going to be in school for the next 8 years for her career. Like, she wants to, like, and she's wanted to do this for several years. Like, it's not like just I think I want to do this. Like, it's what she's always wanted to do.
But he was like, no, you're going to stay home and you're going to have babies.
And he also, I remember her telling me that he would say, like, things like, oh, you'll grow out of that. Or things like that would, he's like, I can't wait for your personality to change when you grow up. Things like that. Because he would say things that, like, her personality was, like, too much, too overwhelming. And I was like, why are you guys even together?
Yeah.
All just a mess.
Well, here's what I hear from that story. Number one, that he, as a Mormon boy, has been raised to dismiss girls' feelings, dismiss girls...
He would never listen to anything she would say.
Just totally dismissive of what's important to her, what she cares about, who she actually is. Like, he's completely dismissive, wants to change her and control her and keep her in a, like, his tight grip of, like, these are the things that you're going to do. I think boys feel, boys in the church, they grow up feeling entitled, and the priesthood authority makes them feel like that's something they can use over the women in their lives, especially a spouse. And I think the purity culture stuff hurts boys as much as it hurts girls. Well, I don't know, maybe not as much, but it does hurt boys because it gives them the wrong idea. Number one, that they don't have to be responsible for their own thoughts and actions, and that they're able to, like, put the responsibility on a girl for making them think bad thoughts, and so then they end up shaming girls. They also, I'm sorry, but it's impossible for a boy to grow up in the church and fully respect somebody of the opposite sex, because boys are so much better in the church. Like, there's only men in the leadership of the church. They make all the decisions. They make all the rules. Girls have to go to men to ask for permission for things. They have to confess to them about, the things they've done wrong. They have to, it's just, a girl can't give a blessing. They have to ask a man to do that. And so, unfortunately, like, the patriarchy is so harmful to men and women and boys and girls when you start from a very young age being told that you are better than. And it's not in those words. That's the hardest part about it, is because it's so insidious and it's not super obvious. They never say the words, men, you are better than women.
In fact, they try to tell you that women are just as good as men. You are here to support. You're here to support your men. They can't do this without you.
Right. And they even pedestalize women and make it sound like women don't need the priesthood because they're already so great, and men need the priesthood in order to be good enough or whatever, which is such bullshit. And it's just so patronizing to women. So I think, your friend's experience with being date raped multiple times. This was over months, right?
Yeah.
And every time she was taking responsibility for it, feeling like she was wrong, she was bad, she was dirty, she was now broken, and nobody would ever want her again, and couldn't talk about it to people, just all of the freaking things.
Yeah. Like, I can't even imagine, like, not being able to talk to someone, first of all, like, would be horrible.
Yeah.
And then on top of all of that, like, guilt that you have, and not being able to, like, talk to someone about it. It's ridiculous.
And she's not alone. I guarantee it's a common occurrence. I've heard so many girls tell stories about just feeling controlled, feeling manipulated, feeling dismissed, feeling pressured to do things to make a guy happy. And
unfortunately, the things that they never talk about in church and in young women's and in activity days are they never talk about consent. Mm-mm. They never talk about healthy boundaries. Never. They never talk about that your body is your own and that you have your own authority over it, and that, you know, you get to choose who touches it and who looks at it and how, and all of these things. We're constantly being sent messages that our body is for someone else.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like it would make I feel like I would have a really hard time telling someone no. Like, I feel like I was very lucky with the guys I've been with, where they've been very respectful, specifically, you know, my most serious and most, you know, recent boyfriend. Because he even said, he's like, I was really worried when we, like, first had sex, because I knew that you probably wouldn't say no if you didn't want to. So he was, like, so worried about, like, pressuring me into it and making me feel like I had to.
Okay, but
I feel like I didn't feel pressured into it, you know? Right. I feel like he was so good about not pressuring me into it, because I think he knew that I could easily be pressured into it.
Yeah, because he knew you well. But let's also mention that your boyfriend is not Mormon. He's not
Mormon. He was not raised Mormon. He doesn't know a whole lot about the Mormon church.
Yeah. He's not religious at all.
He's not religious at all.
Because even not being Mormon doesn't totally fix it, because a lot of times in any evangelical or Christian religion, same thing, you know.
His parents are Catholic, so that's really the only, like... But even then, it's not like they go to church.
Yeah, it was just kind of a... You know... in the background. So I find that super interesting, because he was very aware of your people-pleasing need and, you know, wanting to make sure that you were comfortable with, you know, moving in that direction and all of those things. And he was not, you know, pushing you to have sex before you were ready and things like that.
Mm-hmm. And it's still, like, it was still definitely very weird at first, because, you know, I still had, like, those teachings ingrained in my brain that, like, having sex is bad. So for the first, like, several times, it was definitely kind of a, like, I still had this gut feeling of, like, ew. Like, I shouldn't be doing this. Like, and it took a little while to get over that. I mean, now I'm over it, but it was definitely, like, we were out of the church when it happened. So it's not like I knew in the back of my mind, like, I know it's fine. Like, I know I shouldn't be freaking out, but at the same time, I was still like, I'm going to hell. like I knew I wasn't, but like,
right? Because your brain has been programmed your whole life. You had 18 years of programming.
Yeah, and I think you definitely also helped with that, with being like, you were the one who brought it up to me, like, oh, do you want to be on birth control? Like, I feel like that conversation was really important, in being like, oh, like, it's okay, like.
Yeah.
I know it's probably going to happen.
Yeah.
You know, because, like, I didn't learn about birth control in school. Like,
I
didn't learn about
They only teach abstinence.
Yeah. So, what do they expect people who get married to do?
Yeah, I don't know.
Probably what happened to you.
Yeah.
Have a kid on accident.
Well,
6 months into your marriage.
I didn't. But no, it was after a year. But like, I had no education about it. It was like before I got married, I went to an appointment with the OB, like knowing that I was going to be having sex, and then he put me on birth control. Yeah. And it was like, I knew nothing about the pill. Yeah. Here, just take these pills, you know.
I still don't know very much about the pill.
Yeah. But, I mean, I knew when you started dating seriously, you know, and you were almost 18, and I was like, hey, I'm sure that this is going to be a topic that's going to come up, and you're going to want to be prepared. And so we talked about your different options, and we said, let's go get you an IUD, because that seemed like the best option at the time.
I cannot take pills regularly.
Yeah. And I have an IUD, so that just seemed to be, for me, I love it. It's so easy. And then it's good for 5 years, and, you know, all those things. So we set up an appointment. I went to the OB with you. Like, that was a pretty good experience, I would say.
I feel like that, too, because, again, with my friend who was, you know, she wasn't on birth control. Like,
oh, yeah, so was she freaking out?
Freaking out all the time. I remember she told me that she did have, like, one pregnancy scare where she thought she was pregnant, and she was like losing her mind. And again, this was before she told me like anything. So it's
did
not
they
like I
ever
knew.
use protection?
I don't know for sure.
Because what my experience has been, or like the people that I've known, I had several sisters that got pregnant before they got married, and it's like, because you're Mormon and because you're not supposed to be having sex, you also don't prepare ahead of time.
Sex.
You don't have condoms on hand.
You're not on birth control.
You're definitely not on birth control, because
you ask your mom to be put on birth control.
Oh yeah,
she'll kill you.
Hell no, yeah. And I even know people where like the boy, they knew their son was having sex, and I was like, yeah, you should probably get him some condoms, and they're like, no, then that will just encourage him. Like, that'll just make him think that it's okay to do it. And it's like, oh my hell. Like, okay, so it's better to just get a girl pregnant then, huh? Yeah. So people just like their view on it, their perspective on it is so skewed and messed up. And so I think like unwanted pregnancies actually happen a lot in the Mormon church, because we don't know how to prevent them. Kids are not taught.
Yeah.
And they're too afraid to talk to their parents about it and to confess or to say that that's what they're doing, because that's the other thing is like the church turns us all into liars. Like, we have to hide things from our parents. We can't tell them what's going on.
to be able to go on a mission.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you lie for everything, to go to the temple, to do whatever. I mean, I have my suspicions, but that a large number of people who get married in the temple aren't actually worthy.
Oh yeah, I believe it.
I really think that a lot of people lie about it.
Yeah.
Because I mean, think about it. What if you're like planning to get married, right? The invitations are out, your wedding date is set, the temple's scheduled, yada yada, and then you suddenly like screw up and have sex. Are you going to call everything off? Are you going to cancel the temple? No. They're going to still go through with it. They're just going to lie.
Yeah.
And so it's just it's so painful and sad, and they're going to feel all this shame about it. And now like my perspective has changed so much, maybe to the opposite extreme of like, yes, have sex before married, before you're married, have all the sex, have all the partners, like learn all the things, do all the things that you want to do, so that you aren't left being uneducated, not knowing what you're doing, having like fear and shame around sex. Like, there's a lot of that.
So I have another friend, this is a different friend, who just got married. She was married before she was even 19.
Yeah.
And I just remember thinking, like, I was at their wedding reception, like, they're gonna go home and have the most cringy white person Mormon sex of all time.
Missionary
sex. Yeah. And I was just like, that's, like, her mom's probably never talked to her about that.
No.
Like, her mom didn't even want her kissing boys until she graduated high school. She didn't want her dating until she graduated high school. And
then as soon as she graduated, it's like, okay, find a husband.
Yeah, pretty much.
Because she was married less than a year after graduation. And we have multiple, because I served at the Young Women's, we had like a whole crap ton of our young women who got married within a year of graduating high school.
Yeah.
I had a few, one in particular that I remember really well, that was like 3 weeks after graduation. And the only reason they waited that long is because she wasn't 18 yet, and her parents made her wait till she was 18.
Yeah.
So she turned 18 in June, got married like the next day.
I think it was in August that she...
No, that's somebody else.
Oh.
Yeah. But yes, that happened too. I'm thinking of somebody else. But yeah, like I had a bunch of my young women get married super, super young. Like, and I think part of it is just like, well, you can't have sex till you're married, so you should just hurry up and get married. If you love somebody, let's hurry up and get married, rather than like experiencing life and finding out if you're really compatible.
Yeah.
If you can really
I think living
put up with each other
beforehand is important.
Yeah.
Because
how has
like
that experience been for you? Because
I mean, I love it. I've had so much fun.
Yeah.
I think it's great.
So, well, let's tell the listeners like what.
I just moved in with my boyfriend 3 months ago.
Yeah.
It's both of us. Like, we both moved out of our parents' house.
You're 19, both of you.
We're both 19, you know. And so it's definitely, all of it's new, 100%. Yeah. Like, but it's been really, like, I think I'm kind of surprised by how well it's gone. I was kind of worried about, like, things, you know, like, getting on each other's nerves all the time, or, like, getting bugged by each other, but, like, it's been fine. I never get annoyed with him. Okay, I shouldn't say never. I don't usually get annoyed by him very easily. Like, it's very hard for him to get on my nerves. And I don't know. I feel like that would be something that if I was not with the right person, I would find out really quickly by moving in with them.
Yes.
Like, whereas if we got married before we moved in.
Yeah.
And it was not the right person.
Yeah. Then suddenly
I'm like stuck with them.
Yeah.
I'm married to them.
Yeah.
And I have to live with them.
And it's a whole shit show ending that, right?
Yeah.
Or getting out of that.
But
I knew people that got annulments, like, right after marriage, like, within, like, 3 months, and they had gotten married in the temple.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know of at least 2 people right off the top of my head that I can think of that did that.
Yeah, because I think you just see a completely different side of people by moving in. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of things that, like, I don't know, that I feel like we didn't know about each other until we moved in.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
And we should also say that was like a year and a half after you started dating, too. It's not
we've
like...
been together a while. We've known each other even longer.
Oh, yeah. You've known each other since you were, like, 14.
12.
Really?
Yeah.
12? Are you sure? Holy crap.
We met in, like, 7th or 8th grade.
So, yeah. So, I mean, you have known each other a really long time.
Mm-hmm.
And you are actually really lucky. You guys have had a pretty smooth sailing relationship, you know.
Yeah. There's still, like...
Well, yeah,
I mean,
there's
I'm
always
definitely,
gonna be
like,
issues.
a people pleaser, which, like, when I get annoyed with him, I end up just, like, doing nice things for him. Like, I'll, like, clean or something. Like, I feel like I have to do something to make him happy, even when I'm mad at him. Which I feel like is another thing that I kind of got from the church.
Yeah.
Is, like, I feel like even when I'm, like, okay, I never get so mad at him. Even when I'm annoyed with him, I'll still, like, make him dinner, or I'll clean, or I'll do woman things. I don't know.
Interesting.
I find myself doing that. And I'll be, like, in the middle of doing it. I'll be like, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this for him? I should be making him do this.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and I wonder what the psychology is behind that. Like, is it meant to... Is it like this idea of, like, maybe if I serve him, I'll love him more?
Yeah.
Or maybe if I serve him, I'll forget that he's annoying me.
Love your enemies.
Or is it like a manipulation? Like, I'll make him feel guilty because I'm being so nice, and then he'll be nice or something. Do you know what I mean? I just think it's interesting to at least stop and think about it, because I do think that the church teaches so many unhealthy coping mechanisms, unhealthy relationship tactics, like when it comes to, like, manipulating or being passive aggressive or not communicating, like, and I can only speak from my experience. And of course, my experience is in the church, but to me, it feels like so much of that stems from, like, church teachings. And I see it so much. I see so much narcissism in people in the church. I see so much manipulation, so much passive aggressiveness, so much like shaming and, you know, like putting pressure on people to be a certain way, to do a certain thing. I mean, from in every aspect of our lives, like from what we wear to how much we weigh to, you know, how we do our hair and our makeup, like to the kinds of cars we drive, to the houses we buy, to our family setups, like how many kids we have, like the types of jobs that we get, the careers we go into. Like, so many Mormons have this prescribed way of being in almost every aspect. Like, it's so bad. And I was talking with my cousins last night about this, because I have a transgender cousin, and he just got married to another transgender man. And it was my first gay wedding, and it was amazing.
Trans and gay wedding.
Trans gay wedding, yes.
It was amazing.
It was fantastic, and it made me so happy to be there, to support him, to get to know him in the first place, because I didn't know him hardly at all before his transition, and seeing a bunch of my cousins there, we kind of got to talking about how So for this trans person, they live back east. So they do not live in Utah, where we live. And so it wasn't their wedding. It was like a reception that they did here in Utah after they got married back east. But anyways, my cousins that I was talking to, they live in Utah County. And my one cousin, she definitely does not fit in Utah County. She's definitely unique. She doesn't have the bleach blonde hair and the super cute clothes and the, skinny, perfect body and all of this stuff. She's just who she is. And I think it's really hard for her living in Utah County. She hasn't been living in Utah County her whole life, but it is so ingrained in the Mormon culture. There's a lot of competitiveness, especially among girls and young moms, and like you see all the mommy bloggers and the mommy TikTokers. Oh my gosh, it's so obnoxious. Yeah. Like it's this entire culture of hideousness. Like I hate everything about it.
There are a few good ones. There are a few cute babies on TikTok.
Well, yeah, I'm sure there's a ton of cute babies.
Right. There's a few that I like. But none of them are Mormon. The ones that I like aren't Mormon.
Right.
So it's fine.
Right. Because you see how the Mormon moms all feel. I guarantee most of them really have significant insecurities. I do think it's really interesting to talk about how that purity culture and the patriarchy like affects how women feel about themselves, how they present themselves to the world, how they, even come into their own in terms of like figuring out who they are.
Yeah.
Has that been like has that been a challenge for you to like, because I know early on you would say things about being in Young Women and you would say like, all they ever do is talk about how to, cook or how to like do crafts or iron clothes. Yeah. And like, you were just so sick of like doing all of the stupid girly things.
Examples of like guys getting to go out and play or do go-karts or something. To go bowling or do fun things for their activities, and we get to stay home and iron shirts.
Yeah, stay home and iron shirts.
I don't know if I ever ironed shirts for an activity, but we did a lot of crafts. We did a lot of like baking competitions, and we did like, and yeah, they were fun, but also I felt like it was always the same things. Yeah, it's a lot of like, how can I be a better wife? How can I be a better mother? Like,
for sure. Well, and that's what you say in the Young Women's theme every single week. That's what the whole goal is, right?
Yeah.
To what is the theme? I can't even remember.
I can't remember. Let me pull it up.
Okay, hold up. We are daughters of our Heavenly Father who loves us. And actually, I should say, I only know the old theme. They've changed it.
Oh, they have?
Oh, yeah. You didn't know that? Mm-mm. They've changed it. So the old theme was, we are daughters of our Heavenly Father who loves us, and we love Him. We will stand as witnesses of God at all times and in all things and in all places as we strive to live the Young Women values, which are faith, divine nature, individual worth, knowledge, choice and accountability, good works, integrity, and virtue. We believe as we come to accept and act upon these values, we will be prepared to make and keep sacred covenants, receive the ordinances of the temple, and enjoy the blessings of exaltation. Right?
Yeah, that's what I remember. I couldn't find the...
As we learn to accept and act upon these values or whatever, we will be prepared to make and keep sacred covenants.
Yeah, so it's the ones that's popping up for me is completely different.
Yeah, it is. The new one's different.
It's complete. I thought it was just a few different changes.
Well, it's not complete. Well, yeah, no, it is completely different.
Do you want to hear it?
Sure, go ahead.
I'm a beloved daughter of heavenly parents with a divine nature and eternal destiny. As a disciple of Jesus Christ, I strive to become like Him. I seek and act upon personal revelation and minister to others in His holy name. I will stand as a witness of God at all times and in all things and in all places. As I strive to qualify for exaltation, I cherish the gift of repentance and seek to improve each day. With faith, I will strengthen my home and family, make and keep sacred covenants, and receive the ordinances and blessings of the Holy Temple.
Wow. Okay. So I actually think this is definitely an improvement. Yeah. So I love that it mentions heavenly parents. I love that it mentions that you're a disciple of Jesus Christ and that you're trying to become like Him. And that...
Instead of becoming a better wife or mother.
Right. And then I like that it says that I seek and act upon personal revelation. Okay, that's awesome. The stand as a witness of God at all times and all things and all places is still the same. And then it says, I strive to qualify for exaltation, which I hate.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't like that
The
part.
qualify. I freaking hate that.
I have to qualify. Sounds like in track, you had to qualify for certain
You have to
races.
be fast enough to qualify for the race. Yep. I don't think it's necessarily bad to say that I seek to improve each day.
Yeah.
With faith, I will strengthen my home and family, make and keep sacred covenants, and receive the ordinances and blessings of the Holy Temple. So, I mean, those things are fine. But the qualify for exaltation, if they could at least take that bullshit out, then I would say, yeah. I would say this is a huge improvement over what we used to have,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, when you repeat that theme every Sunday, and actually, do they still stand up and all repeat that together? I don't know.
don't know.
Yeah, I don't know why I'm asking you. I guess I'm just asking out loud, but not expecting you to know. But yeah, just the standing up, repeating that over and over again, having it memorized. It runs through your brain all the time.
Like, as soon as you start saying it, it, like, all came back.
Yeah.
Like, I couldn't remember how to start it, but then once you started, I was like, oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, the other thing I noticed is the old one says, we are daughters, right?
Yeah.
And that one says, I am a beloved daughter. So it's more like personal about you.
It's
in
less
particular.
of, like, us all saying it, like, standing,
Yeah.
you know? It's more of, like, me, personally.
I think
Just
that's a
kinda cool.
good step.
Yeah.
I actually think that's a really great step. I think it's an improvement on the old one, but just like having that be super ingrained in you, I think that's super culty because it's like, and it's very indoctrinating to just
To
like,
repeat the same thing over and over again. Kind of feels like when we'd say the Pledge of Allegiance every morning in school.
yeah, that's culty too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. So yeah, that's definitely an improvement, but I think, and I also, what I'm hearing anyways, because we're not still in the church, but what I'm hearing is that they've like way cut back on like activities, and are they even doing girls camp anymore? They're not doing steak.
Pretty sure I got invited to girls' camp last year.
Really?
Yeah.
So maybe they're still doing girls camp. I don't think they're doing stake conferences anymore. Guess what?
Really?
I think our ward or our stake is doing Trek this year.
Oh my god.
Yeah. We never did Trek.
No.
Although I really wanted to.
I didn't.
I totally wanted to do Trek, and I never got to. I actually asked to be one of the leaders for Trek, and then I got pregnant and I was really sick. So that was with your baby sister. Yeah. I got pregnant with her. I wanted to be one of the leaders, but I was really sick with my pregnancy and I couldn't do the Trek thing. But now I look at Trek and I'm like, that is the most bass-ackwards, culty, weird thing. Like, why in the hell are they doing that?
Yeah.
It seems like it's just like pure torture.
Yeah.
But anyways.
It's for that elevation emotion. You know?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's to give you opportunities to feel emotion so that they can say to you that proves the church is true.
I know the church is true because I had this funny feeling in my stomach.
I know the church is true because somebody told me a sad story and I cried. I mean, that's more what it's like, right?
Yeah.
Like, my experience of feeling the Spirit was always tears. Always. It was emotion. And now I recognize that, I just felt empathy for people. I just felt connection to people when they told a story that resonated with me, or that I could feel the sadness of it, or I could understand their pain or whatever. I think I'm just a really emotional person, but I've also noticed that since I left the church, I hardly ever cry.
Really?
Yeah. I'm way less emotional. I used to cry at everything. And I don't know if
She
that
cried
was...
at Soul Surfer.
Oh, shut up. My kids will not leave me alone about that. That was a sad movie.
Okay.
That was an inspiring movie. It was sad, kind of, but I don't think that's why I was crying. I think I was crying because I was inspired.
Even worse.
But anyways, I know. Shut up. Hey, having feelings is okay.
I know.
And I have really big feelings. But it is interesting because it's almost like I had like programmed myself or trained myself to be even more emotional. And now that like I'm just not as emotional. I'm just like, oh, that's such bullshit.
Yeah.
Like I can easily see when somebody's trying to manipulate my feelings. It's so weird. And so now, and in the beginning of my faith crisis, I started to think that like the spirit had left me and that's why I wasn't crying anymore. But the truth was that I was thinking with the critical part of my brain.
Yeah.
I was starting to think critically about things instead of always going straight to emotion about everything and trying to, well, if I can just feel the spirit, then I'll know that this is true, or then I'll strengthen my testimony and I'll do the right thing and everything will be good. And the bad thing about that is that you end up feeling a lot of fear and foreboding joy. Like when things are good, you're afraid that suddenly they're going to go bad. You're afraid that you don't deserve good things, or that you're going to get a trial, or you're going to get a punishment for not doing good enough things. But when you're the critical part of your brain, or like your sister would say, use the smart part of your brain. Or is that you that says that?
The other one.
Jezebel. Use the smart part of your brain. When you start critically thinking, you recognize that not everything has to be like completely emotional. Like you can make decisions, or you can hear a story with your head and you can critically dissect it and go, well, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
That sounds like bullshit to me.
I feel like that was kind of how I was like growing up. I felt like I was looking for a lot of like concrete signs, because like I said, I didn't really feel the spirit a whole lot.
I think you're a lot like your dad.
Yeah.
In that way. You're definitely like, you're still a lot like me in like your people pleasing and things. But I think that your critical brain always worked better than mine did because of whatever parts you have of your dad in you. Like dad was a critical thinker, and I think you are too. And I think that actually saved you from being overly emotional about the church.
Yeah.
And
because I remember hearing a story of somebody being like, if God is true, he put like a lamb's skin out in the field while it like overnight, and if there's no mildew on the coat, then that means God is true, or something like that. He asked God for a sign, and I did that at like 8 years old or something, like super young.
What?
And it didn't work.
What? You put something outside?
Yeah, like a towel or something. I put it outside.
Oh
and
my gosh.
Waited to see it, because there was mildew on the grass, but not mildew on the coat in the story, right? So I was like,
okay.
If there's mildew on the grass and there's not mildew on the towel, then like that's a for sure sign. Like that, I know God is
You
true.
don't mean mildew. You mean like
not mildew.
You mean like the moisture, just
drops,
dew. Yeah,
just dew, not mildew. Dew. Gross. Mildew's gross. Anyway, dew.
Yeah.
Dew. If there wasn't dew on the towel, but it was on the grass around it. So
this was your test to see
was
if God was real.
And obviously it didn't work. And I was
you went out there, the towel was wet.
And I was like, huh. Interesting. Maybe I need to try something else. And I remember like trying all kinds of like little things, like if God's true, then this will happen.
Really? You have never told me these stories. This is awesome.
And I just like, none of them happened, obviously. So I felt like that was always like, I never got a concrete like for sure thing that God was true. So it's a lot easier. I feel like it was a lot easier for me to be like, oh, I think that's why it made it a little bit easier for me to leave the church versus you, because I never really had that strong of a testimony.
It wasn't like totally heartbreaking for you to realize that all of it was a lie.
Yeah. Like I still,
because you're like, I didn't know it was true to begin with.
Yeah. Like I still was never like, oh, it's definitely not true.
Right.
But it never gave me a for sure sign. And I stopped doing that after a while.
Yeah.
But there were a lot of times where I was like, I would like pray to find something, and I was like, if I find it, then I know God's true. Or like things like that.
Yeah. I had experiences where I lost things and found them after praying.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, God is aware of me. God knows that I'm here, and
that.
He's showing me that I'm, that He knows me and stuff.
I've done that too.
I had those answers all the time. I also, so like one example of me like testing God or whatever was like Moroni's promise in the Book of Mormon. Like after reading the Book of Mormon, I did the, Moroni's promise thing where you pray to see if you have a burning in the bosom and you know that it's true or whatever. And I didn't get that feeling. And then you know what I told myself? Well, duh, God knows that I already know it's true, so He's not going to show me a sign.
Yeah.
Like God's just saying like, why are you testing me when you already know?
Yeah.
And I'd be like, yeah, I already know. Oh, yeah, okay, I already know. Like, God doesn't have to give me a sign.
Yeah.
So stupid. Like, I feel like I just, like, brainwashed myself. Mm-hmm. Like, I was as good at brainwashing myself as anyone else was at brainwashing me, right? Like,
Yeah.
it just, I think, and your sister Jezebel kind of said the same thing, like, that she had some of those similar experiences where she just, like, would try so hard and then just be like, well, you already know this, you know?
Yeah.
You already know. What is there for God to do to, like, prove it? He doesn't have to prove it. You already know, kind of a thing. And that's just so...
It's crazy.
It's bad. It's bad. But, so one of the last experiences I had, this is, like, after my faith crisis had started, I was already struggling, but I was still really, really trying to, like, make everything work. I wanted so much for the church to be true. And my bishop, he comes up to me the week before General Conference and he says, hey, I have some extra tickets to General Conference. And do you want them? I can give you 3 tickets, you know, for me and you and your sister, right? And I was like, yes, I want those. This is my opportunity, because I had never been to a live session of General Conference. And I genuinely thought, A, that the bishop was inspired to give those tickets to me, and that he had had the spirit of discernment to give those to me. And B, I thought, I'm getting these tickets so that I can go to conference and I am going to feel a very strong confirmation that the church is true and that I should stick it out and that I should stay here and that everything's going to be fine.
General Conference, that was after you started, like, I didn't know that.
Yep. And we went to General Conference, and guess what I felt? Nothing. I genuinely was so disappointed by General Conference. Because, and here's the thing, as long as I can remember, as far back as I can remember, I genuinely loved General Conference. I know that I'm kind of a weirdo in that. Dad always hated it. He never liked it. I know most people I talk to say they always hated it. I genuinely loved it. Like, I was not faking it. Like, some people do fake it and say that they loved it. I really loved it. I always felt the spirit. I always felt like they were speaking to me. I always felt like they were inspired. I always felt like God had opened and softened my heart, and so that I could hear this message and that I could change and be better and do better and all these things. Well, when we actually attended conference, it felt completely empty. Yeah. I felt nothing. And especially when the prophet got up and spoke, and this was after your dad had left the church. And so I was still struggling because now it was my job to save the whole family, right? Do you remember the day that we left church because I could not stop crying?
I do.
And we drove around in the car, and I was telling you how it was now my job to save everybody, right?
I do remember that.
Do you remember that? That was so traumatic for me. Like, that was probably one of the worst days at church, but that's how I felt at church pretty regularly.
Yeah.
Pretty regularly. But there was just this one thing that happened in sacrament meeting. These people were sitting by us. They have this perfect family. They're all in matching clothes. Dumb assholes. They're all in
know who this is now.
Yeah, they all used to wear matching clothes every Sunday. So we're sitting next to them. I'm kind of watching them. They look like the perfect Mormon family. Their kids are all young. They're all still active and whatever. And I'm thinking, I'm fucked. My whole family, I'm losing this battle. Like, I knew that you weren't fully invested in the church. I knew it.
I remember you saying, like, I feel like I'm losing my family. Like,
yeah.
Because you felt like you were losing both.
I totally did. I totally did. And I felt all the responsibility to save everyone. So I was in that space too when we went to that general conference. And President Nelson, I want to say, I should have double checked this before, but I wasn't planning on sharing this story. I want to say it was in the spring of 2019, but I don't know that for 100% sure. But President Nelson's talk basically said, like, time is running out. You need to get your shit together. Of course, he didn't say get your shit together, but he did say, like, you need to get it together and get back to church. Time is running out. And that is literally the only thing that I remember from that whole meeting. Like, those are the only words I remember hearing. And I only remember feeling worse after going. And then after that point, I decided to read the whole Book of Mormon because I wasn't giving up. I mean, that was a super devastating experience, but yet I was like, nope, I'm still not giving up. I'm going to read the whole Book of Mormon again. So I committed to read the entire Book of Mormon, and I read it in like 3 months, and I could not believe, as I read it, I felt nothing. And I just kept thinking, why don't I feel anything? Why has the Spirit totally left me? Why is God completely abandoning me? I'm trying so hard. And all I could see and feel and hear in those words of the Book of Mormon was negative, was sadness, was like a terrible, horrible God who doesn't actually care about his children. Like, it just felt so dark and empty, and like there was nothing good in the Book of Mormon. I literally got nothing out of it, and I finished it, and I didn't even do the prayer. At that point, I was like, I don't even want to pray about it because I think I already know, which is exactly what I did before when I thought I already knew it was true. So I wasn't going to pray about it, or I wasn't going to expect a sign because I already knew it was true. And now this time I was like, I'm not even going to pray. I know it's not true. It's bullshit. It's all bullshit. And that was before I even knew anything about Joseph Smith, like actually being a fraud. Like, but it just felt like so not okay.
Yeah.
So I think for us women being taught that like we're supposed to be nurturers, we're supposed to be whatever, like just the mom thing, like that's your whole job in life is to be a mom. You're just there to be a support and a helpmeet for your husband. Like that's all we were ever taught. And if that isn't in your nature, then you end up feeling like something's wrong with you. Like,
and that's another thing that like I'm glad we left the church before I had to like decide what I was going to do after high school. Because I felt a lot of freedom of like I can do whatever. You know, I don't have to feel like I have to serve a mission. I don't have to get married. I don't have to like. There was just no pressure of like I can choose whatever I want to do, and if I don't like it, I'll just change it. Like I remember you telling me that like. You pick what you want to do, and if you don't like it, you can change your mind.
Just try something. If you're not sure, just try something.
You know, and I think, I
feel the pressure of like making the right decision, because in the church there's always one right way, and everything else is wrong.
Yeah.
So if I didn't like it, the right thing. Yeah.
So if I didn't like what I did, then I was like, oh well, this is all I can do. You know?
Because God said like I got this answer that this was the right thing or whatever, and so you end up getting like pinned into a corner of like having to do one certain thing. And also, I don't think that you, at least, and I don't know if your feelings have changed now, but when you were in Young Women's, you were like, I'm not sure if I want to be a mom.
Yeah.
And
right now, I definitely don't.
Yeah, I mean, you're still so young. Yeah. You shouldn't feel
right now,
like, but like, and so then do you end up going, well, what's wrong with me? Like, do I have to have kids? I'm not going to be happy.
Yeah.
If I don't want to have kids, my life is going to be miserable.
What am I supposed to do? You know? What else is there?
Well, and you would just do what you're supposed to do because that's the type of person you are.
Yeah.
You're like, I'll just be miserable and have kids.
Yeah.
But does it feel pretty liberating to be like, I don't have to have kids if I don't want to?
I can move in with my boyfriend before getting married.
Yeah.
Which has been great, right?
Yeah.
We don't ever have to get married.
Yeah. You don't ever have to.
Not that I don't want to. I think it'd be fun. But
yeah. But it's not an expectation.
Yeah. I could wait 10 years before getting married, you know? I don't have to get married at any time. I can do it.
Right. Because the only reason to get married young is because you want to have sex. If you can't have sex before you get married, then you have to hurry and get married, which is such bullshit. It's so backwards, and like really it does not help.
Yeah.
What it ends up doing, and I used to think that was the best way to go because then you know that you're really committed to somebody. Bullshit.
Yeah. People
end up just being really miserable in their relationships. I think that when you've never had any sexual experiences, you might not even know who you're sexually attracted to. Yeah. You might not even know what your sexuality is. And suddenly you get married and you're like, you know, what if you suddenly are like, you're married to a man and then you realize, oh, I think men are disgusting and I'm not sexually attracted to them. You know what I mean? Like, I think that happens more often than we know about or that we realize. And so you're not compatible and now you're stuck.
Yep. Yeah.
Forever.
All eternity.
All eternity. And somehow you think, oh, but in heaven, God will make it right. God will make it so that I really am attracted to my spouse. Or God will make him better. Like, God will make me like him. Yeah. I mean, my parents stayed in a loveless, horrible marriage for 30 plus years.
Yeah.
And they were not happy. I'm sorry. Maybe saying that it's loveless is an exaggeration. Maybe they would correct me and say, no, we loved each other at one point. But to me, what I saw did not look like love.
Yeah.
It looked like obligation. And I think, unfortunately, that's...
I don't think that... I've seen that happen in relationships outside of the church, too.
Yeah, that's true.
But
definitely,
I
yes.
feel like it's a different type of obligation. I feel
Because
like it's
eternal.
Yeah.
Or like it feels heavier. Like it's more, right? It's weightier.
Because I feel like outside of the church, it's more of like... Oh, we've got, like, kids that we want to stay together for. Or, oh, I don't want to have to move. I don't want to have to go through it. It's too much work. Like, I feel like I've heard of people
Or
being
it's
like
a financial thing.
Or it's a financial thing that, like, they have to stay together because they can't be financially independent.
Yeah. And I shouldn't say that, like, all obligation is bad. Because sometimes having an obligation to somebody that you feel like you should live up to, that's not necessarily innately wrong or bad.
Yeah.
But it's just the problem of, like, not getting married too young, not knowing yourself enough, not feeling like you have a lot of options. And then I almost forgot to bring this up. I want to talk about this. Is in the church, we are taught as women that we can't get to heaven without a man.
Yeah.
Like, we literally, we're
that.
basically worthless without a man. Like, we can't get to God.
They will call us back to heaven.
Yes.
They will bring us to heaven.
They will call us through the veil. If you don't have a man on the other side that knows your new name to call you through, guess what? You don't get to be with God.
Yeah. But he can have lots of wives.
Right, right.
He can have lots of
so literally, our worth is dependent on having a man love us. I'm sorry. And that is not said explicitly, but I'm sorry, that is embedded in our doctrine. That our value is connected inextricably to a man.
Yeah.
And
I mean, because you have to be married and have kids to be a good wife and mother, which is all you are in the church.
Yeah, because if you don't have kids, you're not fulfilled.
Yeah.
Right? You can't, you're never going to reach your fullest potential.
Yeah.
It's just sad. It's just sad and ridiculous and unhealthy. Unhealthy. So I think one of the things I'm the most proud of is the fact that I figured it out. I got the hell out of there. And then I helped my kids get out. And that now you guys have an entire life ahead of you to make whatever choices you want to make without guilt, without shame, without obligation to please me or your dad, that we are going to love and support you no matter what. And I hope I communicate that well to you, that, like, there is no expectation towards you making any specific choice in order for me to love you, which means that love is truly unconditional.
Unlike God's unconditional love.
Correct, right? Yeah. Which is, I mean, all the love in the church is conditional. Love of God, love of your parents, worthiness in the church. Like, those things are so interconnected, right? And all of it is conditioned upon your behavior, your choices, your spirituality, all of it.
Yeah. And it's just, like, I don't know. It's just crazy the way that they expect you, you just have to listen to the prophet. And sometimes I wonder, like, why the prophet says certain things. Like, and I get this question all the time, and I don't really know how to answer it. Like, people are like, why can't Mormons drink coffee, but they can have caffeine?
Ha!
And I'm like, I don't know, because it doesn't make sense.
There's no actual reason.
There's no reason. It's just
we're supposed to be obedient to what they say to do.
Yeah, they just want to control us. And that just is so weird to me.
Yep.
I don't know.
Yep. It's just one of the many parts of the bite model, which categorizes the church as a cult because it's behavior control.
Yeah.
It's and everything comes down to obedience in the church. Obedience to the prophet. And I just...
Which kind of brings us back to, you know, women being obedient to men.
Yep.
You have to listen to them. Can't say no, you know.
Yep.
I gotta please my man.
Yep.
Yeah.
100%. And we give our power away in every single way.
Yep.
And so for me, like, I got a tattoo yesterday, guys. I got my very first tattoo ever. And
it looks so good.
It does look good. It's for Pride Month. I wanted to do it during Pride Month. It's rainbows. Let's see. It's hearts in the color of the rainbow. I don't know how else to describe it. What is it?
It's how many hearts?
It's 7 hearts.
7 hearts.
Each a different color of the rainbow.
Yeah.
Yeah. All in a line. And it is so meaningful to me because like my daughter coming out as gay was a huge catalyst for me leaving the church and deciding to take my power back. And then just getting a tattoo myself was also taking my power back and saying, I get to choose what I do with my body.
Yeah.
And it was awesome. It makes me so happy that I did it. And that, I mean, that took some bravery. Here I am 46 years old and I'm just now being brave.
You've got your nose pierced now.
Yeah.
And now you've got a tattoo.
Yeah. Korihor here has like, I don't know, how many piercings do you have?
Quite a few.
1, 2, 3, 4 on that side. 5, 6 on your nose.
7, 8, 9. So I have 9.
9 piercings and 2 tattoos, or do you have more?
I only have 2, yeah.
2.
One of them's pretty big, though.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really big.
So.
But, I mean, it's just... Isn't that kind of cool to just be able to make...
I love that people can look at me and be like, oh, she's not Mormon.
Yeah, right? It's kind of an outward expression of an inner commitment. That's the saying in the church. Like, that's why you wear garments, and that's why you know, it's an outward expression of an inward commitment.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? My tattoo and my nose piercing, that's an outward expression of my inward commitment.
Yeah.
And I love it. Makes me happy. So... I'm so glad we got to have this conversation. I think we've gone long enough.
Yeah.
Sorry, maybe this has been too long, but
we'll probably cut out quite a few minutes.
Maybe we'll cut out some. So anyways, thanks for being here. Thanks for your support, and we'll see you next time.